Len May. What a great conversation with Len. Fascinating man. Fascinating man. Art and science. He's got both. I mean, I start the conversation off with vinyl. He's a big vinyl advocate, has a vinyl record of the day and goes into it and has thousands of vinyl records. He used to work at Tower Records. I don't know how many of you are going to know that reference, but I certainly remember Tower Records. But then he has a company, EndoDNA, where he works on DNA, and I shouldn't say works on DNA, but works with. Do you know what a polymath is? I've certainly heard the term, but I never knew what it meant. He describes himself as one. Fascinating, the source and what polymaths are. I think it's in all of us. But I talk about the connection between art and science. Does stress cause all diseases? He was kind of tricked as a young man to smoking a cigarette that ended up having cannabis in it, and it helped him in certain ways. His parents kicked him out of his house and tried to get him arrested. They ended up turning around on that. But the life of cannabis with DNA, with personalized medicine. He has a great podcast. Everything is personal. He's an author, speaker, fascinating man. Really enjoyed talking to Len May. Thanks for watching. Hi, I'm Joey Pinz, and here's my 45-second introduction. After starting my business in the 90s, I started developing poor habits of eating in my diet because of working way too much. Before you know it, I found myself 340 pounds. The doctor told me if I don't lose the weight, I'm not going to see my daughter graduate. Took the next 7 months, lost 130 pounds. People think there's some secret. Ask me, how'd you lose that weight? Like there's some secret. There is no secret. How did I lose the weight? Just one word: discipline. I've had other successes in life, and I attribute them all to discipline. Now, I'm not the king of discipline, but I believe that it can help all of us. Friends, colleagues convinced me to start a podcast. The podcast mission: how do we better ourselves and society? I talk to interesting people in health, fitness, sport, wellness, business, technology, science, art, and culture. And I eventually ask them how discipline plays a role in their life. Podcast vision: growth through learning from others.
On the green screen.
I'll leave it up to my editor. I have no idea. He's very adventurous sometimes. What was the vinyl record of the day?
Well, I didn't do a record of the day today yet, but on Friday was Amy Winehouse, Back to Black.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. And why vinyl? Where did you tell me about that journey?
I guess part of my journey, but I got a job at Tower Records.
That's right.
When I got kicked out of my house, and I was trying to kind of get a place to live, and also pay my way through college and all that stuff. So I was going to Tower Records and I was buying a CD here and there. But when I got a job there, when I was a kid, my dad wouldn't let me touch his vinyl. So it was like a very, so when I started, I'm like, I got vinyl for myself. So I started collecting vinyl. And when I moved from Philly to LA, I started like digging, and I could get vinyl for $1, $2. And all of a sudden that same vinyl was like, oh wait, it's popular again. It's being sold for, $30, $50. So, and I told my daughter, I'm like, here's a record player. You can take any of my vinyl. She's like, why would I do that? I can stream everything on Spotify. All right. Forget it. Oh, well.
In this fast-paced MSP landscape, how do you stay ahead? Introducing MSPinfluencer.com, your ultimate hub for MSP news, insights, and community connection, powered by Forza Dash. More than 75,000 MSPs subscribe to our MSP Influencer Pulse weekly newsletter, staying informed and ahead of industry trends. Tune in to emerging podcasts from Joey Pinz and leading MSP voices, offering essential tips, powerful insights, and success stories. Explore our multi-authored blogs, crafted specifically for MSP leaders, delivering fresh perspectives and actionable strategies. Celebrate excellence with the industry-leading Forza-MSP Influencer Awards, recognizing innovation, leadership, and impact in the MSP community. Join thousands of MSP professionals who trust MSPinfluencer.com to grow their business and expand their networks. MSPinfluencer.com, where today's MSP leaders connect, collaborate, and conquer, all powered by the Forza Dash platform, helping MSP vendors work effectively with MSPs and helping MSPs grow. It was my mother's, like the Beatles vinyl, the Beach Boys. It was these kind of, late 60s stuff that just, reshaped my whole. Her punishment would be to take away the vinyl. Yeah. Yeah. How do you choose the vinyl of the day, week?
So I started doing this because so I have ADD, and my ex-wife used to tell me, "Why do you eat the same thing for lunch every day?" I'm like,
Ah,
I only have because I don't have to think about it. It's the same thing. So I have a structured schedule because I don't have it structured and it's all over the place. So I
mm,
eat at the same time. I make myself some very similar, like a salad or eggs or something like that, and I would just pick a vinyl from my collection randomly, and I would play it while I'm making myself food.
wow.
And then I started, recording and saying, "Well, this is the record of the day," and just sharing it with people. So it's kind of random, but now the only thing that I'm like, did I actually do this vinyl yet that I posted? That's my
I
only
see.
kind of,
I see.
is it a repeat? And if it is it, has it been a year or so for me to
Mm.
repeat it, or did I do it like a couple weeks ago?
And from beginning to end, or you start in the middle?
No, I play so I choose a song. So what I
I
do is I give like a little blurb about the artist or about the group or some of that, and or something about the record, and I choose a track just off the album. So whatever that track, whatever I want to listen to that day,
hmm,
that's it.
very cool. Yeah, it's a great hobby and a great kind of thing to take you away. I mean, the problem is vinyl ends up taking a decent amount of space.
Oh yeah, I have it. I have plenty of it. I have a built-in bookcase that uh, I converted over to vinyl.
I see.
So there's I'm looking at it now, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven shelves filled with vinyl,
Wow.
and across I think it's about 36 inches across. So I don't know how many vinyl, I never counted yet.
Right.
So I just keep buying. So it's filling up my bookcase. I have space.
And how are they organized? How do you find?
Good question. So they're not that organized yet because when I have over 6,000 CDs too, and I get really anal about it. So I categorize them by category and alphabetical order. So I haven't done that with my vinyl yet, but that's my intent. Yeah, but the categories will be like rock, pop, kind of jazz,
Mm.
hip hop. So I'll try to fit everything in those categories, and I'll alphabetize those in those genres.
Sometimes it's hard because some of those artists they cross over.
That's why I haven't. That's why I haven't done it. I'm like, it blows my ADD mind, man. It's too much work when I start thinking about it in advance.
Yeah, very cool. I don't know where I'd be without music. Len, what's a polymath?
Yeah, it's polymath is somebody who studies and becomes an expert in the field from information that they take from the field. So it's not sitting in class and studying it, it's
Yeah.
actually doing the work. So an example of the most recognized polymath would be Leonardo da Vinci. So
Ah.
Leonardo da Vinci, I didn't know either. I had no idea what it was. I was doing a talk, and the guy that was introduced me as an autodidactic polymath. And I'm like, what the hell is that? I've never heard that before. So I Googled it, and I bought a book on polymath. So I'm like, I need to read, or actually, I listen to my Audible books. I don't read them.
Hmm.
So I need to figure out what that is now that somebody called me. They could have called me a name, something that I didn't get. But no, so it's interesting because it's actually true. When I used to sit in class, like I would just daydream, and I'm not getting that stimulation. But if I'm getting into something and I'm interested in it, I'm all in. Like in my mind, when I was a kid, I used to sort of paint. My dad was like, "Ah, this is a bunch of garbage." So I didn't paint for like 30 years. And I was telling my ex-wife, I was like, I think I can paint. So she got me a gift certificate for an art class, and I painted this flower or whatever. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. And I got really into oil painting, and I
Wow.
sold paintings, and I would just, and the guy in the studio would tap me on the shoulder. He's like, we're closing. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you've been here for 6 hours. I
Wow.
had no idea. So I really get into things. And like Leonardo da Vinci, for instance, as an example, he would buy cadavers, humans and animals. He would dissect them to learn how the muscles and how the bones, how everything works. And he changed the way you paint, uh, portraits and
Wow.
figures because he created that structure because he was so interested in doing that. was an inventor of weapons, all these other things. So the same kind of thing. You become an expert in the field just by studying that field on your own. So that's kind of.
And your introduction to DNA, to personalized health and DNA. I mean, originally from Lithuania, via Philly, now in LA, but why DNA?
Yeah. So DNA, same thing. It's this whole ADD brain and polymath. When I moved to LA, I was a commercial real estate broker, and I was sitting in LA, and it's not a reciprocal state from Pennsylvania, but I was still in the real estate office because people knew me. And I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I'm like, it's 2009, 2010. The real estate market is difficult. So. What I did was these guys came in and they wanted to open up an alternative pharmacy. So I'm like, okay, what do you guys? What's alternative pharmacy? Like, herbs. Like, really, what are you guys opening? I don't understand. Like a dispensary. I'm like, all right, cool. Where's your paperwork? You have to be compliant, SB 420, Prop 215. They had no idea what I was talking about. So I said, I'll help you with the paperwork because I was studying it. I was interested in it. So we got them a place and they offered me a partnership. So we ended up opening four more under the same brand, Kush Kingdom. And what I started noticing was two people would consume the same chemical variety of cannabis and have a completely different experience. So that's my ADD kicked in again. I started researching. I found a video by a guy named Kevin McKernan who claimed to be the first person, one of the first people to genetically sequence the plant. So long story, a little bit longer, I ended up contacting him and ended up coming in as a consultant to work for the company called Medicinal Genomics. So my job was to travel around the country, get plant material from different cultivators, bring it back to my lab, extract the DNA from that, and sequence it. So we started the first genetic library of chemical varieties of cannabis, cultivars and chemovars, called Cannapedia with a K, and put that on the blockchain. And the parent company of Medicinal Genomics was a company called Corrigan Life Sciences. And they did what's called pharmacogenomics. So it's a study of how drugs affect individuals' bodies and how drugs interact with one another so people can avoid those drug-to-drug contraindications. So I really got into the human side of DNA. And my light bulb moment one day was like, we have plant DNA here, we have human DNA here. Let's combine those and guide people to a more personalized experience so they can try to mitigate or avoid that possible adverse event.
So why do people have different reactions?
Genetic predispositions that are triggered by epigenetic expression. So what I mean by that is, everybody knows we get our DNA from 50% from our mother, 50% from our father. But the thing that I think people don't realize is you're in control of most of your epigenetic expression. So if you can think of a circuit breaker with a bunch of on-off switches, maybe about 20%, give or take, are in the on position when we're born. So things like our skin color, hair color, eye color, maybe predisposition of how tall we're going to be, things like that. But the other 80% is within our power, made based on lifestyle choices. So lifestyle choices can be like, the food that we consume, what nutrition we put into our bodies. The second thing can be what exposure to pesticides or chemicals we have, and also our own neurochemistry. So if we're predisposed, if we to a lot of stress, so a lot of cortisol is pumped into our bloodstream, that can actually affect the expression. So to give you an example, if somebody there's a gene called FA, fatty acid amide hydrolase. There's not going to be a test after this. You don't have to remember or anything of that, but it's sciencey. So that gene produces an enzyme that metabolizes something called anandamide. Anandamide is our endogenous, that means we produce it ourselves, endogenous endocannabinoid. So it's part of the endocannabinoid system. And in Sanskrit, ananda means bliss. So this is our bliss molecule. And it's released when you're working out, runner's high when we get, and also when we consume the plant, the THC binds to our CB1 receptors and releases anandamide. So if you have a predisposition to what's called homozygous, same exact allele combination in that gene, you're actually metabolizing more anandamide. So you're producing less anandamide. So in a stressful event, you actually secrete more cortisol. And that cortisol stays longer in your bloodstream. And when it does that, it can create a whole bunch of different things. First of all, it can lower your pH level, make you more acidic. Your immune system can overreact to that. So you have like a cytokine overreactive immune response. So what we'll feel is inflammation or pain, usually in our joints, knees, elbows, hips, neck, back, etc. And if you have predispositions to gut health issues, it can trigger your gut health issues. So if you know this about yourself, you can actually mitigate that by consuming exogenous substances that are mimic what your endogenous substances do, so you can get your levels just right and maintain that homeostasis. So it's really important to understand,
Hmm.
like the way I look at the way I look at DNA is sort of your life's GPS. So I can drive from Philly to LA without a GPS. I'm going to hit potholes. I'm going to hit traffic jams, wrong turns. I'll get there eventually, but there'll be a cost. If I have my GPS, it'll show me in advance which roads to avoid. And that's
Hmm.
why I look at, genetics as part of that. That's an analogy.
Hmm. Very interesting. You mentioned before, Len, that you were kicked out of your house. Your friends kind of tricked you. A cigarette, it was cannabis, and this kind of turned your life into a pivoted in different direction, and you wanted to pursue it so much so that you got kicked out of your house. You had to live with your grandmother. You were in flooded basements, etc. What was that journey like?
Yeah. So, it's all about ADD and understanding. Like, I think in general, one of the things that we do, and healthcare professionals in society, is put labels on people. So
Hmm.
when you go to a doctor and the doctor says, well, you have a disorder. Oh
Mm.
no, there's something wrong with me. I have a disorder. ADHD or ADD, it's attention deficit disorder. So
Hmm.
now they're going to fix it by giving you medication. Well, okay, I can't say the medication didn't work. It depends how you define it. It allowed me to focus a little bit more, but it removed my sense of self, all emotional feelings, anything. And there are side effects to those medications. So when I was discovered cannabis in that story about, some kids put it in a cigarette, I went back to class, the windows narrowed. So, but I could understand that, wait a second, this is medicine. It's working for me. I can still get the same effect that I did from prescription medication without the side effects.
Hmm.
And I started consuming cannabis, gave up the prescription medication. My parents, old school, they come from the old country, and they
Hmm.
didn't understand anything about that. Like cannabis could have been heroin for all,
Hmm.
it's the same
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
So they ended up kicking me out, actually trying to have me arrested, calling the police on me. So when I was homeless, I would couch surf. I stayed with my girlfriend. I stayed at people's houses and all that stuff. And that was sort of my pursuit of trying to figure out, how to re-engage with myself. And that's when I got the job at Tower Records and all that stuff. But the cannabis journey started a little bit differently. I went to this music festival because that was the perks of the job. It was called the Horde Festival, where Ziggy Marley, Blues Traveler, the Black Crows were headlining, and there was
Great.
a bunch of kids. They had a banner called the Cannabis Action Network. So I walked up to them and I was like, "What are you guys doing?" They're like, legalization. We're registering people to vote." And I was like, "Well, I'm already registered to vote. What else are you doing?" "Well, I take a pamphlet." So I became the president of the Cannabis Action Network.
Huh.
And I held a rally at Independence Hall in Philadelphia in 1993. My keynote speaker was this woman named Elvie Musica. And Elvie was one of the first people to get federally prescribed cannabis under a NIDA program with cannabis that was cultivated in Mississippi. I don't know if your audience or anybody knows that the federal government actually had a program that they cultivated federally prescribed cannabis for 16 people and grew it
Wow.
and provided in USDA jars with a label on it, even though it's Schedule 1, so no medicinal benefits. And they held several
Hmm.
patents on cannabis. So that's a little bit of hypocrisy there.
Yes.
So when she the next morning she was consuming. The next morning we got woken up to a noise. So Elvie walked into a statue, like the sculpture that I had in my house, and my girlfriend at the time made, and broke it. She felt really bad, but she had degenerative glaucoma, legally blind, couldn't see anything until she medicated with cannabis. And when I realized that, wait a second, it's working for glaucoma, but it's working for my ADD. So I don't understand, how is this one substance able to work for both of our conditions?
Mm.
And that's why I started digging deeper into the science of how cannabis works with our endocannabinoid system. So
It's a miracle, isn't it? It's when you find out the roots of the reason why it got put on Schedule One, it's very, very troublesome.
yeah, there's
It's the
yeah,
money.
there's money, there's big pharma, there's racism, there's
Mm.
fear mongering. There's all kinds of reasons why it's like that. And look, the pharmaceutical industry, even though it's Schedule One, they synthesized THC and made drugs like Marinol. But the
Mm.
thing that they didn't realize is that it does not have the same effect because it's not just one molecule; it's multiple molecules that work as an entourage to work off each other to produce an effect. Like one of the things that they try to do when we had the AIDS epidemic and cancer patients, these people were going in, Brownie Mary and other people were going in and giving cannabis to AIDS patients. They can actually eat and get an appetite and hold their food down and anti-nausea. And when they created the synthetic version of that, it didn't work the same. It made them sedative, but it didn't work the same. And the reason why is because there's other components in the plant that produce those effects that stimulate what's called ghrelin production, which stimulate our appetite. But it's not just appetite for all kinds of food; it's appetite for salt, fat, and sugar. I
Mm.
don't. I hardly. I don't think I've ever met anybody that consumed cannabis and said, "Hey, let's have some kale." It's not like that. You want to get the munchies, you want to get chips, you want to get those kind of things. So those are the things that I think big pharma is yet to really uncover and truly understand.
Mm. Does stress cause all diseases?
It's a great question. So my mom told me that stress is the root cause of all the diseases, and my ADD polymath brain said, okay, but how?
Mm.
How and why? And that example that I showed you is the reason how. So some people are more predisposed to stress and holding on to stress. So you have several different genetic predispositions. That's stress reactivity, PTSD, and also fear extinction. So slow rate of fear extinction, what that means, if we have a traumatic event in our life, our brain likes to take that trauma, store it in our subconscious so it conserves energy. The brain always looking to conserve energy. If we have a predisposition to stress reactivity, under duress, we can pull up a memory from the past and bring it to the surface. So now we're not just dealing with the stressful event of, oh shit, I just spilled my coffee. It's making me stressed. But I also got hit by a car on my bicycle when I was 9 years old. And, different people are affected by stress in different ways. But stress has a bunch of branches that branch off. So not only do you have cortisol production, but it creates an imbalance in our bodies. And when we're out of homeostasis, things work harder than they should be or less than they need to be. And when
Mm.
you have that imbalance, it can trigger those epigenetic expression of what we're predisposed to. So disease, and we're predisposed to, I'll give you an example. If we're predisposed to Alzheimer's, right? Dementia. So there's a gene called APOE4. APOE is a gene that shows that you're predisposed to Alzheimer's or early onset dementia. Well, it's caused by amyloid plaque. So, meaning the same plaque that's in our arteries in our heart, it actually creates that plaque in our brain. So, not only do we have a genetic predisposition, but we're also living a certain lifestyle, stress, eating not the right foods, which actually create more stress. All that creates amyloid plaque. So, you're more likely to epigenetically express that predisposition to dementia and Alzheimer's than you wouldn't if you lived a different lifestyle. So de-stressing yourself is extremely important. And if you're not getting the right quality sleep, you're on this hamster wheel. So when you're sleeping, you're also releasing different hormones. So testosterone, as men, like I'm in my 50s, in my mid 50s. A lot of people that I know that are in my age group are using testosterone. And one of the things that we do is if we're not getting good quality sleep, when we're sleeping, we're producing testosterone. If we're not getting good quality sleep, so our hormone levels go down, we have agitation during the day, so we're not relaxing, and we're on this hamster wheel of leading us to, these conditions that we're predisposed to. So understanding, having a daytime regimen, having a nighttime regimen, de-stressing, different ways for different people. Some people meditate, great. Some people go out in nature and hike. Whatever that is, that you can get a better quality sleep, you can get de-stress during the day and also at night, and live. It's not about just living longer, which is like everybody's looking to live longer.
Mm.
I want to live healthy, not just longer. If I'm going to live to 100, I don't want the last 20 years of my life to be existence and not living.
Hey, Joey Pinz here. Want to take your podcast experience to the next level? I'm excited to invite you to become a YouTube member. It's the absolute best way to support the channel and enhance your connection. Join our amazing community and unlock the incredible perks, custom loyalty badges, exclusive emojis, and priority comment replies. Your voice will always stand out. Be the first to watch new videos with early access, receive special membership shoutouts, and get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and updates. Dive into content available only to our members, special videos, deep dives, and insider perspectives. Engage directly with me. Suggest podcast topics you want to hear, and even get personalized video shoutouts. Hit the join button right now and become part of something special. Let's build this amazing community together. I can't wait to welcome you as a new member. Join the Joey Pinz family today. I agree. So now you're the CEO now of EndoCana. What's the mission there?
Well, the company is actually EndoDNA. EndoCana Health is one of our tests. So the mission here is we are a decision support platform for healthcare professionals using genetics and epigenetic testing. So the mission is to personalize your health and wellness, to collaborate with your healthcare professional. It's interesting. We always are so divisive in this country. We've been for a very long time in the world itself, but 99.9% of our genetics are identical. It's that 0.1% that really makes us different. But that 0.1% is really important, because if we know what makes us different, we can get ahead of what we're predisposed to. So the idea is the platform is provided to healthcare professionals. It's a platform that allows you to use genetics and DNA through a simple buccal swab. So you swab the inside your cheek, you register, we're HIPAA compliant, GDPR compliant, you send that sample to our lab, we'll process that sample, and we'll provide you a report. You would log into your platform and you would see what your genetic predispositions are. Then we'll create a personalized treatment plan that the doctor can implement using our machine learning algorithm. We have a patent on that as well. And then bookends that experience with biomarkers and patient-reported outcome to see how well that protocol is working, and it'll make a suggestion for the next person. Hey, Len, you're similar genetics to the 100 other people that were treated with this protocol. Try this protocol to see if it's efficacious. So it's always learning.
Wow, I mean, personalized medicine is the future. It's hard to scale that, though, correct?
Not really, because like I said, there's a lot of similarities between people, and it allows us the opportunity to use. So we have a patent on machine learning algorithm to do that. So it'll give you that predisposition based on previous information. So it says, hey, Joey, Len, you have similar genetics. This is your protocol. And the doctor says, you know what? I have my own secret sauce. I don't like this protocol. I'm going to modify it. Wonderful. You modify it, it's working because you can measure how well the epigenetic expression works based on blood work, etc. And then once you get that information, the AI will learn and come back to the 101st person and say, you know what, try this protocol. So it's always learning, and it's much easier to scale with AI than it is if you're not using machine learning.
Yes, the AI has really come into play there. How is it going to help in genetics, AI, or hurt?
Well, I don't know how it's going to hurt, but how it's going to help is data. So one of the things that we have 10, 11 now clinical studies. We have a phase 2 clinical trial at Harvard. We have 5 in Wayne State. We have 3 in Sham. We have 1 in the UK. We have 16 citations on PubMed. One of the difficult things is data. So when we were doing data analysis without AI, you have a bunch of spreadsheets, you have a bunch of bioinformatics people. People are prone to making mistakes too. So it's tremendous amount of data, and trying to make sense of that data for patterns, it has been really difficult. With AI, it's almost instantaneous. It allows us to start looking at things like initially when we met with the FDA, they said, what is the purpose of your test? So to help people either avoid or mitigate a possible adverse event. And that's the key. So I'll give you a quick example of how this can show up in the real world. I have a friend of mine who's a pretty successful entrepreneur, and he has a predisposition to depressive feelings. So he gets depressed. He had a business deal that didn't go well. For some reason, he got depressed and went to a psychopharmacologist and got prescribed an antidepressant. He's not from LA, but he was in LA. He was driving around the canyons. Some people have seen, movies with LA. There's Mulholland. There's a bunch of different canyons. You can drive off the canyon fairly easily, which unfortunately people have. So he started driving. He was driving with his son and his wife, and he said he had this overwhelming desire to drive off the cliff. And he goes, it was so overwhelming that he got scared and pulled over. And when he got out of the car, his wife came out. He said, "Are you okay?" He said, "No, I'm not okay. I shouldn't have been driving." And luckily, he recognized that. And when he went back and got what's called a PGX, a pharmacogenomics report, which I described earlier, that medication he was prescribed was red. It was not the right medication for him. One of the side effects was suicidal thoughts. So I was given a talk to a bunch of doctors, and I asked them, and psychopharmacologists, and I said, how many of you do a genetic test before you prescribe a antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication? Not one person raised their hand. So not only was that drug wrong for him, but he also had something called treatment-resistant depression gene. So that medication may have not worked for him anyway, but he got the side effects from that. So we need to do a better job as healthcare professionals to be able to make sure that the medication that people are getting and the drug-to-drug interaction, the side effects aren't worse than the conditions. Look, I don't watch a lot of TV, but I was watching the NBA finals, and there's commercials. And like half of the commercials are for drugs. And I'm listening to, I'm not mentioning any companies or anything like that, but there's a skin condition. Okay, I have a skin condition. I'm sure it's annoying. It's awful. But when you start listening, they're listening to side effects, cancer, death. I'm like, holy shit, I'll be okay with my skin condition. I don't want to die for it. You know what I'm saying? So these are the things that we need to be better at. We need to collaborate with. Look, it used to be this thing where doctors says, take 2 of these and call me in the morning. Well, why is it 2? Why is not 4? Why is not 1? Our doctor and us are a partner. We have to collaborate with a healthcare professional for our own healthcare journeys. We should be in partnership with them. Yeah. And this is why we provide that platform. So it's transparency. So the more we both know, the more we can create a plan that's personalized and customized to the individual that will constantly be updated because it's always learning. And AI allows us to learn much better what's working for the individuals in advance and help make those recommendations instead of a manual process.
Then how do you approach, I mean, you love music, you love vinyl, you love to go to concerts, you're a big music, but so it would seem a lot of your life is art, but you've got a definite science with all this DNA. When you go to solve a problem, do you solve it with more art than science?
It's such a good question. It's that ADD polymath brain. My dad was an engineer. So he always had the scientific, and we never connected. I could never connect with his scientific brain, but because I have a more artistic kind of brain. But I think that combination of the two is what makes people unique. I'm not a scientist, but I love science, and I love there's no gray area It's black or white when it comes to that. You either do or don't. But having the artistic brain, it makes me question that and say, well, wait a second. What if we color this a little bit differently? Could it
Mm.
work a little bit differently? So it's a unique look at it. That's why I think, we have a little bit of success. That's why, I'm writing this book on the connection between ADD and polymaths, and music is part of that. And this is my artistic outlet. Even the way that I think I listen to music connects differently. And when I talk to people that are sort of vibrating at my frequency, like what kind of music do you love? I'm like, the music that connects most to me is music that's sad for some reason. And it's
Mm.
because there's an emotional connection. I can connect to what the artist is saying. Like, give an example, like Alice in Chains. I don't know why it popped in my head, but when you hear the lyrics of Lane Staley, who's passed away,
Yeah.
but when we hear it, and this other side band, which is called Mad Season, it's gut wrenching. Like, listen to it. There's so much pain, but there's authenticity that comes
Mm.
through, and it
Mm.
connects to me emotionally. I listen to all kinds of music, but that's the kind of music. So to combine that with a scientific mind, and then combine that with the emotional part that comes from that music, I think it gives me sort of a unique view into anything that I do.
Yeah, it sure does. Uh, is everything personal? What is your goal, your takeaway from the podcast?
Uh, I find people's stories to be fascinating.
Mm.
So my goal with that podcast was to try to talk to interesting people, and to find out what obstacles they had to overcome in order to leave that breadcrumb trail for other people. It kind of came from my daughter, because I was, and I was trying to tell her, don't step in the potholes that I stepped into, but everybody wants to make their own mistakes. And I think that if we can tell enough stories by other, people's journeys, and see how they, first of all, it's motivational. You can actually see that not everybody had it smooth and easy. They've had some roadblocks along the way, and they were able to overcome that. So for me, I listen to a lot of, people's biographies and what people have gone through, and you sometimes see people successful, but you don't see the 100 times that they failed before the 101st success. So if I can have that conversation with more people and show everybody that what you see on the surface, it may be just 1% of all the work that it took to grow the bamboo before it actually comes out.
Mm.
I just think it's just so fascinating. I'm interested in it. And luckily, other people have been interested in it as well. So I was able to find an audience.
Very, very cool. Yeah. Len, has there been anything in the last month or so you changed your mind on?
It's changed my mind on. Uh, I mean, this is sort of a personal thing, but I think I've changed my mind with how I approach my relation with my daughter.
Hmm.
So she's going to be 21 soon. And one of the things that I was doing for a while was teaching. So I'm gonna tell you how I suggest that you do it this way. And I
Mm.
suggest,
Mm.
so
Mm.
I found some friction in our relationship. So one of the things I changed my mind was, I'm not doing that anymore.
Right.
I'm going to allow her to come to me and ask me. That's the only time that I'll give advice, in a way, instead of me for giving her uh, advice that she didn't ask
Right.
for, kind of
Unsolicited. Yeah.
unsolicited advice kind of thing. So I changed my mind. I think it's working, because I started seeing that every once in a while she'll come and ask me for things. So
Mm.
I'm trying to be patient with that. But yeah, that's the first thing that popped in my mind.
I was part of a peer group for a long time and I became facilitator. And I quickly learned that if I've ever asked for advice, I say, well, here's a situation that was kind of similar to that. And this is what I did and this is what I learned. That just kind of frame it that way because I don't know, I don't think I'm good enough to give advice. But yeah, learning that is really Because you have some friends, Len, that just give this unsolicited advice constantly, and it just kind of slowly phase them out, don't you? Because I didn't ask, and then if you don't take it, then they get upset with you, and it's kind of a slippery slope there. Uh, do you meditate or journal?
I do both. Yeah. So, meditation's been a big challenge for me. Uh, so I've been focusing on trying to find meditation that works best for me.
Hmm.
I took a TM class from David Lynch's foundation. So I did
Transcendental.
transcendental meditation. So I did transcendental meditation for a while, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night. It was extremely difficult, but it was great when I was able to get into it.
Hmm.
And then I got into Joe Dispenza work. I did a Joe Dispenza retreat, so I started doing Joe Dispenza's meditations. Um, Also, not the easiest, but I kind of sit through that. So anything that I can do to meditate, but I mean, the best meditation that I get, and I'm lucky because I live in LA, is hiking. So
Hmm.
I took this class from Stephen Kotler on flow. So I took this flow state class, and for those of you that don't know flow state, I'm not going to get into the geeking out on the science of flow state, but think about it as all your neurochemicals are firing at the right amount that's necessary in the moment. So to give you a sports analogy, it's like when the guys are on fire and the hoop looks like in basketball looks like a swimming pool, you can hit from anywhere. You're just in flow.
Hmm.
So they're trying to figure out first of what is your individual flow state where you're at the best in your chemistry, and how do you prime yourself for flow. And this was during COVID. I was just taking all kinds of different classes trying to stimulate my brain. And I found hiking allows me to do two things. Number one, it allows me to not actively think. It allows me to open my mind and let information flow in. So what I
Hmm.
started doing was I would get my phone, and I would after I'm done my hike, I would take notes. And I look at my notes, I'm like, holy shit, I got some great ideas. Like things are just downloading for me instead of me actively thinking through that. So that's one. The second thing that I think is amazing is the ability to be in nature and breathing and getting all that, and it just it connects beautifully, and it's a meditative state without actively like forcing yourself to sit down and not think, because I'm all actively doing that.
Yeah, getting off the grid, boy, separating ourselves from the phone is really, it's so worthwhile, isn't it? And being in touch with nature. I golf, and I would walk when I play, so I like the idea of just turning off the phone, still every few minutes hitting the ball, but still walking around, getting some vitamin D, just seeing everything. It's so beneficial for us. So then I started my business in the 90s. I was working way too hard, 14, 16-hour days. You're no stranger to this. And next thing, putting my health in the back seat. Next thing I know, I'm in front of the doctor. She tells me I'm at 340 pounds. She says, if you don't lose this weight, you're not going to see your daughter graduate. So it scared the hell out of me. I spent the next 6, 7 months, lost about 120 pounds, kept it off. You can't look at it as a finishing line. And when I tell people this, they ask me, what's your secret? What'd you do? There's no secret, Len. Discipline, right? I feel it's a spectrum, motivation, focus, routine. These are the things I did and do to kind of stay in line when it comes to that particular area. How does discipline play a role in your life, Len May?
It's all discipline. You're absolutely 100% correct. If And this is what people talk to me all the time. Like I was an ADD coach for about a year, and I coached high level executives on how to utilize their ADD as a superpower. This
Hmm.
is this is the thing that I think people don't understand. That to me, when I was talking about earlier about this label of disorder, it doesn't have to be a disorder. I
Hmm.
think of it as an advantage. It's actually the ability for me to multitask effectively, where people say just focus on one thing. Well, I can focus on several different things if I
Hmm.
utilize my ADD as my superpower. But it's that ability to have discipline. you need to have systems in place in order to utilize it right. So you gave an example of health and weight. How many people make a New Year's resolution to join the gym and go to the gym January? Man, you go to the gym, parking lot's filled.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't get a parking spot. February, still filled. March, a little bit less. April, well, shit, it's back to being the same. In May, forget about it. So you have to create a discipline, and the discipline has to include a why. Like, I know we talk about why and all this, but it really does. And I'll tell you, you have to create a reward system for yourself that gives you that carrot at the end of doing something that's the way you want to do something repeatedly. So for the gym, for me, I love going to sauna. I may not enjoy the gym. I may not enjoy the workout. But at the end of the workout, my carrot is I'm going to go to the sauna. I don't care if it's 100 degrees outside. I enjoy it. It's something that I found that gives me pleasure. So the gym is part of the journey where at the end of that journey, there is a prize. And that prize is, that sauna. Hiking, same thing. So you're talking about working, 10, 12 hours a day. I'm working my ass off all day. But at the end of the day, I know I'm going to go with my dog and I'm going to go on a hike, which is my reward for all that hard work that I did. So that's the way you create lanes. Like, you create lanes for yourself, but you're going to, if you don't have something that is going to give you that reward, you're going to burn out. So people talk about the big why. Yeah, I mean, we all have a big why. I want to make a change in the world. I'm a disruptor and all that stuff. But the big why is so esoteric. It's so big that you need these little whys in order to be able to continue day to day and reward yourself every single day. And look at the things that you've accomplished in a day instead of focusing on the things that you did not accomplish. And give yourself some love and pat yourself in the back, because nobody else is going to give it to you the way that you can. If you can't give it to yourself, then you're not going to be able to receive it from anyone else.
Yeah, want to show your love for discipline, inspiration, and the Joey Pinz podcast? Now's your chance. Introducing the brand new Joey Pinz merch store, where style meets discipline. Choose from premium apparel, cozy hoodies, stylish hats, durable bags, and your new favorite coffee mug, all featuring the iconic Joey Pinz logo. Perfect for podcast fans, discipline enthusiasts, or as unique gifts for friends and family. Every purchase supports the Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations podcast, helping us continue to inspire greatness and promote positive change. Visit joeypinz.com/store today and wear your discipline proudly. Joey Pinz merch. Wear it, share it, and live it. I end up working with a lot of professionals who just don't celebrate the small things. It's even if it's a fist bump, or go on a trip, it's small, but just take a moment to reflect on what you did. It's very important. What motivates you, Len?
There's different things that motivate me. One of the things, I'm an immigrant in this country. So to leave a legacy for my family, to know that I've made a contribution in this world when I'm no longer here, that's very important to me. I want to make sure that whatever I did, when people look up, they know that I did something good. I made a contribution. That's a big motivator for me. The other thing that's a motivator for me is fear. And fear motivates me a lot more sometimes than the reward. And I'll tell you why. When I was a kid, my grandfather got a stroke. And when he got a stroke, really large guy, 6'3", big man. And my grandmother was really small. And he was partially paralyzed. And she had to drag him around. He could barely speak. And I'll never forget my grandmother with like bags of pills, constantly talking to the doctor every couple months. This interacts with this causes this. And it continued to create these health issues for him. So I was always scared of prescription medication and these things. So the fear of getting sick is motivating me to stay healthy diligently. Like, I was always afraid to be incapacitated, always afraid to be sick. So I take I try to take really good care of myself to prevent myself from getting sick. So whatever I can do, that motivates me as well to stay healthy because of fear.
Hmm. So legacy and fear. So given those two motivations, Len, how do you measure success?
Uh, I measure success by enjoying what I do at the end of the day.
Mm.
So when I journal and I write like what I accomplished in a day, if I accomplished like I had a smile on my face, I made somebody happy, somebody said, that's this test helped somebody, like what we do, that's my success.
Hmm.
One of the things that I'm disconnected from a little bit, and I need to get a little bit more engaged with, is that feedback from the individuals that use our test. I was in Brazil speaking at this conference, and there was a group of people that lined up afterwards to talk to me, and I don't get to do that enough anymore. And there was this girl in a wheelchair, and she's smiling, and she's not mobile, but she's smiling, and she looked so happy, and she was there with her mom, and through a translator, this girl was severely autistic,
Hmm.
nonverbal, non communicative, no expression in her eyes. She showed me video and pictures before. And by taking our test and having a protocol that worked for her, first of all, she can now verbalize certain things.
Wow.
She had a smile. She could talk with her eyes. Like there was emotion. And like, it made me feel so emotional. And that connection to why, at the end of the day, all the things we're doing is for that reason. Is to
Hmm.
have that person, or the guy that was talking about his mom who couldn't get out of her chair. Now she's cooking him dinner, and like that human connection is why I do what I do, and that's what I have to remind myself all the time. That's the important part.
Boy, how rewarding is that to be a part of that kind of success, Len? That's incredible. Yeah, impact and connection. Unfortunately, a lot of the technology separates the connection with us. So it's important to get those connections and really try to personalize it. Len, you do incredible things, man. And I love it. I'm glad we set this up. I thank you so much for your time today. Anybody listening, watching, how can they get in touch with you?
So our website is endodna.com, endodna.com. I'm Len May everywhere except I think on Instagram, Len May DNA, because it rhymed. So I like that.
Nice.
LinkedIn, everywhere else. I have a podcast called Everything is Personal. I have a book called Making Cannabis Personal. It's on Amazon or wherever you get books. And I have two other books that are coming out shortly. One is a very comprehensive music book that has something connecting to that record of the day that I
Wow.
do. Uh, that's my artistic side. And I have a second one on polymath and ADD. That's my scientific side. So I get to get both hemispheres satisfied.
And you also have Len May coaching.
Yeah. So Lenmate coaching. So what I do there is that experience in Brazil motivated me to do more one-on-one.
I
So if
see.
anybody wants to do a DNA test, have me go over them, have me connect them with a healthcare professional. I do that for people as well.
Len, I thank you so much for your time. Next time I'm in the LA area, perhaps we'll get a cup of tea.
Let's do it. Sounds good, Joey. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much. You be well.
You too.
Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations.